Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Jesse. My pronouns are he and him, and I will be your mistress of ceremonies tonight for our game of Under Hollow Hills, McGay and Vincent Baker's game of a wandering fairy circus performing for all and sundry. This game is currently being run through the Gauntlet gaming calendar. We have a gaming calendar where you can sign up to play games. There's a bunch of other stuff that's run under the Gauntlet banner too, podcasts and the forum and whatnot. But we really care about playing games, and that's what we're here for. And so, why don't the rest of our friends introduce themselves? I'm just going to go around. Rich, go ahead.
You bet. Hi, my name is Rich. I use the he, him pronouns, and I'm part of the Gauntlet. I normally run games, but I got into this game to play, which is awesome. And that's a thing. Yeah, the end.
Awesome. Anna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Anna. Use she, her pronouns. I am pretty much new to the Gauntlet and new to Under Hollow Hills, but I really respect Vincent Baker's work, and Apocalypse World has been just incredibly generative, so I'm excited to see what this looks like in play.
Amazing. Steven.
Yeah, hey there. I'm Steven, he, him. Been here on the Gauntlet for a couple years now, and I am, as a rare occurrence, am playing in a game that Puckett is not in, which is if you've been on the Gauntlet, it's quite rare.
Puckett plays in a lot of games. Yes. I'm so we're going to talk a little bit. We're using a number of safety tools. The first one is in all of our games, and that is the open door. If anyone has to leave at any time for any reason, they can just go. Obviously, I appreciate it if you can let me know. But if you can't, or just it's fine to open door out if necessary. I would like to add that if I disappear, or we take a break and I'm not back in like 10 minutes from when I say I'm going to be, assume I'm not coming back and we should just end it. I will obviously try to let you know if something happens that I can't come back, but that's good rule of thumb, 10 minutes. Tonight in particular, I am the only parent in the house, and though the child is asleep, he may awaken and summon me. So just things to be aware of. So that's open door number one. Number two, we are using the X card. The X card is something you can invoke by saying X card or X, or putting your arms up in front of the camera like an X, or writing an X in our group chat. Or I think there's an X card button in our die roller, which I'll stick on the in the chat just so that people can see that too. So lots of ways to invoke the X card. The X card is when you invoke the X card, you're saying, I don't want something that was in this game to be in the game anymore. And it will be excised without any judgment or reasoning required. I may ask one or two questions just to make sure I'm clear on what's being X'd in the scene so that we can not have it come back. But beyond that, no questions asked. It's so if something comes up and you're like, ugh, or just, that's my cousin's name and I don't want my cousin's name in this game because it's strange. Feel free to X card that or anything else. Another safety tool we're using some of Bo Sheldon's script change tools. Specifically, we're using Rewind, which lets you say, I'd like to rewind back to such and such a point. I don't like how that just went. Can we? And you can, and we'll say, sure, let's go back there and we'll just replay it. And if there's something specific about how that played out that you want to make sure it doesn't happen, you should say so, but you also don't have to. You can simply say, I'd like to rewind back to such and such a point. We can also pause is the second script change tool, and that is used when you just want to stop play for a second or a few seconds. You can say pause. I need a quick stop. I need a break. It can also be a useful tool. Sometimes in the sort of energy of the moment, it can be hard to sort of get people to say, hey, I want to stop and have a quick meta conversation. I want to talk through what's just happening. you can use pause for that as well. You know, you don't. So that's for stopping play, for taking a break, or and sometimes in that context for having a meta conversation about what's happening in the game. Although, of course, you can always just start talking about something if you want to. And then the third script change tool we are using is fast forward, and that just lets you say, hey, I know what's about to happen. This beloved NPC is going to die now, and that's fine. It can happen in the story, but I don't want to spend time on it. I don't want to, you know, have it on camera. So we'll fast forward through it. We'll fade to black, cut through, and then the events, we'll sort of summarize the events so we know what happened, but you know, we don't have to dwell on it or play it out. So those are the script change tools we're using. And finally, we're using lines and veils. If you go to there's a lines and veils tab in our character keeper. It has a list of items and checkboxes marked line, veil, and ask. So lines are things that are just not going to appear in the game. Not going to happen. Veils are things that can happen in the fiction, but we're not going to put on camera, right? The classic example of this is, you know, in a Hollywood movie, a couple might kiss, and then it fades to black, and when the screen opens, when we come back to the scene, they're in bed smoking cigarettes. Everyone knows what happened, right? But it's not on camera. It happened in the fiction, and so that's a veil. Or the camera might move away, you know, before a violent contact, right? It happens. We know what happens. We don't have to see it or have it described. So those are veils. And ask is finally things that we're okay with having in the game, but we just want to make sure that if they come up, we want to talk about it first. You know, say, hey, you know, I'm fine with this, but I want to be careful about how it's deployed or what have you. So those are things with ask. There's a list here, and I'm going to read through the ones that we've already had. You can add to them at any point you want. And of course, the things that are written are not exclusive. You can add to the bottom of the list if there are things in particular that you want to add that are not here at any point. Yeah. So I just, if you do so, if you could drop me a note in the chat or something, just so that I know that something has been added. I do check in from time to time, but it's helpful. Just to know if something's being added to the safety tab. This is a living document, and it can change over time as meets the needs of all the players. So our lines are harm to children. And here we say prepubescent, right? We're talking teenagers might perhaps be okay to come to some harm, but not young children. Martial law, pandemics, sexual assault, and torture. None of those things are going to appear in this game. Things that are veiled are eye injuries, graphic gore, harm to animal, needles, and sexual content. So all of these things might happen in the story, but we're not going to describe them in any kind of detail or discuss them. And we have an ask on sexism. So if sexism comes up in the game, we'll have a conversation about it first. Does anyone have any questions about safety tools or the specific things that are lined and veiled before we move on? Great. As I said, anyone at any point, feel free to add if you want. And just let me know. Wonderful. Okay, moving on now. Let's introduce our characters. So we're just going to go left to right across the character keeper here. So we will start with Raxus the Hob. So Rich, would you like to introduce us to Raxus?
Sure. Raxus the Hob. Hob is short for Hobgoblin. I don't know what it's short for. Maybe it just is. But Raxus, I mean, I'll cop to it. I'm sure everyone's figured it out except Anna, because you'll figure it out in moments. Raxus is heavily influenced by Hoggle from the movie Labyrinth. He has a raspy voice and sounds terrible and selfish, and probably isn't. He seems to say things and then do other things. He is really good at drawing someone out He's also skilled at distracting people with tricks and visions and making himself into something else. He also is good at shrugging off problems. However, not so good when it comes to putting people off, weathering the storm. So he's a lot of bluster, and maybe there isn't a whole lot to actually back it up. He is currently mostly in summer. So he carries around a spring peeper, which, if you're like, what's that? I Googled it. It's a small chorus frog. He wears primarily berry red, and his hair is a little spiky. And he's oddly charming. That's Raxus.
Excellent, excellent. Stephen, would you like to introduce us to Midnight's sibling?
Well, hello there. I'm Midnight Sibling, but then again, you've probably already heard of me. I am the star of our carnival, and sibling to the Queen of the Night herself. I am also, as is known by some folks, the Nightmare Horse, but it's rather impolite to be that familiar with me, don't you think? And as such, I am quite good at dragging someone beneath to watery depths. My form can change to suit my needs, and I'm quite good at confronting folks and waylaying them in various ways. But do you really need to know what's going on in my head? I don't think so.
Lovely. And now,
Yes, and did you want me to introduce my current looks?
oh, sure, please.
Yeah, I am currently a thunderstorm of blazing energy, mesmerizing and charming eyes. My eyes are always mesmerizing, but in my summer, they are charming rather than controlling. My skin is of a velvet blackness that one can become lost in. And I wear rich clothing with high riding boots, and I am currently mannish and charming.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. And Anna, would you like to introduce us to your young witch?
Sure. Yeah, my character is a young witch in the sense of being relatively inexperienced with magic, not so much young in the sense of age. She's in her mid-30s, I'd say. But she's come to drift into the troupe from her city, from her hillside city after attending a performance in a friend's basement. She realized that this was a group she needed to follow and learn from. Her name is Ingrid, but she also goes by Egret. Her pronouns in her state of openness are she, her, and z, here. And her attributes in her state of openness at the time this begins are eyes darting about, tracing tethers in air, the blue gathering at dusk, the moon above the hill while we talked, a scarf trailing in the breeze, and womanish and queerish. I am trying to remember the order of operations here. should I go through trappings and bindings right now? Or
I mean, so we're not going to go through all of your trappings. I think I'm going to ask you a couple questions about them, if that's
sure.
all right. And then, so, you have this hand-me-down cart that's pulled by a blunt-horned, bored old ox. I'm curious what the ox's name is.
The ox's name is Petrichor, but most people just call him Peter. He doesn't like it though. You can tell his eyes light up a little bit when someone calls him by Petrichor, and so Ingrid usually tries to pay him that respect.
Fantastic. You have among your personal belongings a photo of your cat. Is this a cat that you brought with you from the mortal world, or did it stay behind?
This is a cat that kind of came into Ingrid's life unexpectedly, walking in through her open window. And it's always kind of made its own way in the world. When she left her hillside city to join the troupe on tour, Ygritte didn't have much time to make arrangements, but she left her cat Altair with her. I'm going to say the drummer in the noise band, Young Witch, that she like briefly played violin for, it had kind of already sunk into a state of entropy before she left town, but never actually broke up.
Wonderful. Final question. So you have a stick and poke tattoo of the Fool on your shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, who gave you that tattoo? Did you do it yourself?
Yeah. I wanted to emulate the spirit of the Fool in the classic Rider-Waite deck by performing the stick and poke on myself in the mirror. As a result of this, it's kind of hard to tell that it is the Fool from the Rider-Waite deck unless you ask me about it. But if you ask me about it, I'll tell you.
Wonderful. Okay. So, what was I going to ask you? No, that was it for questions. So finally, bindings. So you have these two bindings. Why don't we? So someone can volunteer for them, and the other thing to remember is somebody doesn't have to. So that if you decide like none of the bindings like fits one of the other characters who's here, that's fine. We have there is another regular player who might want them, and if not, that's also okay too. But they're here and they're available. And I know that Midnight Sibling still has a binding that's opened that perhaps might suit you, but also might not. So why don't we start with your bindings, Ingrid?
Okay, sure.
So why don't you read the first one and see if either you or one of the other player characters think it's a good choice for them.
Sure. This one was the one who brought me into the circus to learn what I could. If I ever insult them, they can revoke my invitation, and I don't know what will happen then. Who is this?
Do you think it's one of you folks?
I feel like it might be Raxus, right? Like I feel like Raxus is the one that actually would be like planning things enough to actually invite someone.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm picturing the two of you like in this basement at this show, just like drinking together. Right? Maybe Rax. I mean, if you don't like this, it's cool. This is just a thought, right? But like, hey, you guys played okay. You want to come play with us? I don't know. Does that fit? Do you think that suits?
Sure.
Yeah, and there's also like, right. There's also a downside here, which is that if Raxus gets pissed off, well, he can revoke that invitation.
Mm-hmm.
And
I want to see that though.
would not want to see that. Raxus is a
Nobody would.
and why don't you read the second binding?
Sure. So the second binding is, this one doesn't love humankind, and as the servant and guardian of a human community, takes me for an enemy. If I ever win them over, they must willingly teach me one of their plays. Who is this?
Do you think that's you, Midnight Sibling, or you don't think so?
No, I can't really. I don't know. It doesn't occur to me that there's anything like obviously a human community I'm the guardian of.
No. The young witch is the servant and guardian of the human community.
I'm
Okay.
disgusted because it belongs to the human community.
You would dislike her.
Sure. That also might play into my unassigned one that I'll see if our witch wants. Let me get to that one. Where did I have it? Right. No.
Bottom left.
Ah, there it is. I've fallen in love with blank, though naturally I keep the fact from myself. I can never put them off. Who?
Oh, so is there like a love-hate kind of thing happening here?
Yes. Do you think that I am secretly in love with you, even from myself?
I think that could be interesting. Is that a binding that you'd like to take up?
Sure.
Or place on me? I'm not sure.
Technically, it's a place on me because I can never put you off.
I see.
Right, which is one of the obvious plays, the basic moves in this game. You can just sort of like approach him and he can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that he also does not like you. Or at least sees you as the enemy. That's a pretty potent set of bindings combined.
I mean,
Yeah, it makes for an interesting dynamic, but that's
I mean, I'm a master.
it's up to you.
I mean, I serve. Yeah, I know. I'm quite cool with that as well. I mean, I am a sibling tonight, and she is, after all, someone that enjoys inflicting hurts and woes upon these fragile creatures called humans.
Wonderful. Okay, so we have our characters bound together. So let's talk a little bit just about what happens next. So we're going into a new performance space, right?
Mhm.
Each session is kind of at least recently has been a standalone performance. Sometimes they run over into two. We'll see how this one goes. I've been trying to play them a little bit tighter. And we've decided that this session would be a show that takes place between worlds, not in the fairy realm, not in the mortal realm, but somewhere in between. That you got stuck somehow. And I'm curious, Midnight Sibling, what happened? How did you get off course, and end up somehow or another not not where you intended, but stuck between worlds.
Well, you see, I have this apprentice you might know, Haslu. Yes. And well,
Haslu is
I
the
had
stick figure who's not here right now.
I had thought that if I, gave them some guidance, maybe hand over the reins to my coach to them, and let them direct us through the pathway between worlds, that they might, learn a thing or two. But then things went awry, and I can't seem to find them anywhere, and my slippers are missing. It's quite difficult for me.
Yes, well, that sounds like Haslu, and Haslu's nowhere to be seen as well.
Exactly.
And you are somehow or another stuck now between worlds. So something that's different, just so you know, about Between Worlds, and I'm gonna place between. I'm gonna read you this from the from the sheet, from the sort of prep sheet. Forgetting. If you remain too long between worlds, you lose yourself. You can't proceed towards summer or winter here, when you would instead erase one of your marks and subtract one from one of your plays. If you erase all 5 of your marks, you forget yourself forever and become an inhabitant of this place, a master, monster, or trapped. Once you're no longer between worlds, you can remember yourself again. When you proceed towards summer or winter, mark 1 and add 1 to one of your plays until you've recovered. So being between worlds makes it's this fuzzy place, right? It's not neither here nor there. Unlike the other places you can be, there are no seasons. You'll notice if you go to the performance tab, where there is usually a calendar, right, the performance of the King's Banquet, where there's usually a calendar, a little thing marking the season on the top right, there is none, because there are no seasons here, and it's the tone runs a little bit darker because of that forgetting. Between Worlds is less a place for whimsy. Than Fairy or the Mortal World, although serious things happen in those places too. So we're here, and I think just to sort of Haslu has gotten you lost in. Did you describe a mist, or am I just making that up? You just were completely. How did you describe sort of the being lost?
I don't think I
experience?
mentioned mist. I think that we kind of I had directed. I should say, I was not directing Haslu. Haslu was directing themselves, and I was just there. It's entirely on Haslu that we're lost now. That we had kind of we're taking a pathway between worlds, and I think I hadn't fleshed out that image a lot. But maybe there is a mist. Maybe it's almost like, I don't know. Maybe it's kind of like to go between worlds. You kind of need to throw yourself upon a sea of mist and let yourself float to the other side. But sometimes, if you're not careful, you can float adrift rather than meaningfully.
Right. In the past, we've described the way that Circus moves between worlds as Araxis's hog sniffing out to the correct path. And I wonder if that was maybe part of the problem. Like Haslu was leading, and the hogs were distracted, and you end up in the mist, and you emerge somehow or another onto the shores of a fairly small island. You can see, from where you're standing, looking out around the island, there's waters quietly lapping against the sandy shore. And it's an island because you can look straight across, and 150 yards down is the other side of the island. This is, not a big place, at least as it appears. There's the beach is sandy. and there's kind of like a scrub grass and whatever kind of mound hill in the center. Probably all of the circus's wagons and such are like gathered along, like strung out along the beach as you emerge onto the shore somehow. And maybe it's 200 yards. There's this big hill with a gigantic tree growing out of it, and a sort of cave entrance in the front of it where you can see. And beside the cave is a small garden. And just to point out, there's an NPC tab here. NPCs, the King's Banquet, which has our most of the NPCs you're going to be encountering here. It also has all of these NPCs from the Stag King's Court, which are not actually going to come into play. I just didn't take the time to delete them from before. So they're there. Maybe we'll bring some in. We'll see. That's not currently the plan. But you see a small elfish figure in front of this cave, tending a garden. He has kind of a pointy chin, dark brown skin, with almost like purple black hair, very sort of like straight and like like cut as if with a knife, kind of like raggedly to fall around his ears. He's wearing like overalls and a work shirt, boots, and he's tending this garden in front of this cave, and he looks up and kind of like spits and says, "Well, you weren't here a moment ago. How do you want to play it?"
No.
That's what happens when you're not here a moment ago.
I mean,
I guess you could have stayed not here, but I wouldn't be saying anything then.
an island like this, for all its graces, you know, I don't think you would be. I would think you would welcome new developments.
Well,
It's a lovely island, though. Cave could make a perfect amphitheater.
yeah. I'm curious, Raxus. What was the show that you'd been intending to go to next? Was it one of these on the tour list, or was it something else? Where is the tour list? Did I hide it? Might have hidden it by mistake. Yeah, I did. There we go. Is it one of these on the tour list, or is it something else?
I think we were on our way to Tennessee.
Yeah, you're on your way to that Piggly Wiggly grand opening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you don't get there, they might be sorely disappointed. But yeah. So he says he says, so how did you get here? I think he sort of like looks pointedly around at the various members of the circus. And just to sort of like, this might be a good opportunity for someone to either, size this person out or sniff the wind to get a sense of like what's going on here. Perhaps try to draw him out, right? There are sort of things you can do to try and figure out what's happening here. Or you can just keep talking to him and see how he does.
I could try, but I don't want to like talk over others if other people
Please
Go ahead.
for this. But I think I look him in the eye and I say, well, we've followed the tracks. sometimes we weren't sure if they were actually there, if we were making them with our caravan, but one way or another, we're here. And I think I'm going to try sniffing the wind.
Sure.
See if I can get any sort of like informative response from
Absolutely.
this person, or just pick up on other signs on the island.
Yeah, absolutely. I will tell you. So like, what do you? Well, let's roll first and see. Actually, I will tell
Okay.
you that as you try to sniff the wind, you notice that there is no wind. It is utterly still here.
Hmm.
And yeah, you can either
So
roll.
that's 2d6 with a modifier.
Yeah, with the whatever your modifier is for sniff the wind, and we have you can use your own, or we have a die rolling site that we use. That there's that you can see in the chat. I've stuck it there.
Okay. Yeah. I've rolled on the Roll With Me
Sure.
webpage. Do I do that in the chat here, or?
No. You can just roll on the roll with the.
Okay. Well, I got 12. 10 plus 2.
Oh, that is wonderful. So you get, I believe, 2 questions. Let's take another look. Yeah, you get 2 questions. I'll put the questions in the chat so you can see them, so you don't have to look at that tab there.
Okay. So should I try these one at a time, or just?
Yeah, one at a time is good.
Okay. What's coming this way?
Yeah, so I think it's hard for you to sort of like. It doesn't seem like anything moves here, right? There's like this very soft lapping of waves against the shore, but like the water is almost glassy. It's like there's if there's waves, they're there because in the imagined idea of what an island like this should be, there should be something, but like in general, everything is very still. There's no wind. The sun is in the sky, but I think the longer you wait, the more you realize, it's just sort of sitting there. But I think this fellow who has introduced himself as Philip Greennails, asks you, are you here for the banquet tonight? And you're not sure what night means, given that the sun, as I said, appears to be static in the sky. But and what's coming is a banquet. There is a banquet on the horizon.
Well, where we go, banquets seem to follow. Famines too, but we do what we can. I think my second question is, if I trust my feet to carry me to safety, where will they take me?
I think you instinctively feel the danger of this place. Right? Like there's no place to go. But the others, but there's and even Philip, right? Philip, who seems, relatively benign. But there's this. I think maybe what you have is a sense of like no way out but through, and the only way for that to happen is to head into that cave. Right? You won't find safety by staying here on the beaches, for damn sure.
All right. Well, my next question was, if I trust my nose to lead me to the heart of this, where would it take me next? But I'm getting the feeling that the heart of this is somewhere in the cave, or the cave is.
Yeah, and Philip, has mentioned this banquet. You only get 2 questions in any case, and I think
Obviously.
at that you hear a voice coming to you from the cave, and it's a familiar voice. I think to Raxus at the very least, and it's sort of like a high pitched kind of voice, and you hear Raxus shouting out from that cave to Philip, Green Nail, who you talking to out there? No one ever comes here. And it is the voice of Lee Thimblechin, who you may remember as a friend, as the former lover rather of the Shimmering Beast, whose wedding you performed at not so long ago. And they were looking. They left not entirely satisfied with the results of that, but their voice is now here, shouting out to Philip Greennail, and I'm curious how you'd like to play that.
Thimblechin, what are you doing here?
Who's that? Is that
Lost too?
Is that Raxus?
It is indeed.
What's and they step out of the cave, out of the shadows of the cave onto the shore, and they see you, and they see the circus spread out, here, and I think the rest of you probably will at least recognize them as someone who was at this wedding that you performed at, if not so overtly, right? This goblin-esque figure, a little smaller than Raxus, and they say, I was looking for, that wedding didn't go great for me, and so I was out looking for, I don't know, comfort, love. Well, what do you look for when the person you love decides they're not interested in you and goes to someone else? So I was looking, and somehow or another I ended up here, and there's a banquet tonight. Someone told me I'd be able to eat my fill at this banquet. So that's my story. What are you doing here? Did you come for the banquet?
No, Stick got us lost.
Well, you're here now.
We are that.
Are you going to perform? Going to put on your show for us?
Of course. Might as well.
And Green Nail, you can hear fretting. I don't know about that. There isn't. There's space in the banquet hall, but His Majesty really likes things a particular way, and it is his banquet, or it is its banquet, and I'm just not. Is that really a good idea?
It's the best idea.
Is there? And I think Philip turns to you and says, You don't tell me what the best idea is here in my garden.
Actually, I just did.
The idea spoke through Roxas, yeah.
And you hear kind of like a low growl, kind of coming from his throat. I think for the first time you notice that he has where his name comes from. You look at his hand, has these sharp green claws. You didn't notice them at first because he was wearing work gloves. But I think as the conversation has gone on, he took them off, and you can see maybe it's almost a threat, right? He's taking them off as you're questioning him and revealing these sharp nailed hands, and says, "My garden, you don't tell me." And I'm curious how you'd like to play that.
Probably look over to the next sibling.
Yeah, I
Next
was going to
sibling.
say, would you like to call for a line from me?
Fine.
Because yes, I do think that Midlight Sibling comes up behind your shoulder, and really, I think Raxus is pretty short, right? So he well nigh towers over you, Raxus, the both of you goblins, and now, friend, I should hope that you are, and I'm kind of slowly pulling off my gloves one by one as I say this. Now, friend, I should hope that you are not making any untoward threats to my good friend Raxus here. I am rather protective of the little scamp.
Doesn't
And I
seem
believe my hands, although less beclawed, are nevertheless more capable.
Is there a play there?
I am trying to, is it confront someone maybe?
Yeah, it could very well be. Yeah, so why don't you roll that?
Cool. And let me go over to, do you have the, okay, there it is.
Yeah, it should be in the chat. If you need it again, I can put it back.
Yeah, I see it. Okay, and I'm rolling a +2 here. Okay, and that's a 14.
Oh my. So yeah, on a 14, when you confront someone, I believe you get to.
It says they can't proceed without dealing with you, but on a 10+, they have to choose whether to back down and give you your way or defy you and force my hand.
Yeah, and I think maybe shockingly, right? It's odd because not that Lee Thimblechint is a goblin sort of kind. Philip Greennails is not. He's definitely fey, but not that sort of goblin-y look. Much more sort of I'm trying to think like elfish. And it's strange because he was shorter than you, but you find yourself somehow or another eye to eye with him, and like glaring in your face. And he says, "This is my garden, and I say what goes." And he reaches out. He pulls his hand back, as if he's going to try and slash you with his claws. How do you want to play it?
I grab him up by the throat. Your garden. The whole world, lands both fey and mortal, are the realm of my family.
Okay, I love that. I think this is now an actual fight, though.
Yep.
So this is so for a fight on equal footing between two ready opponents. This is not in the thing, right? So we're gonna. I think he's gonna sort of like duck back, right? You're like sort of like duck under your hand just to set this up.
Yep.
Right. And is taking a kind of like defensive posture. You're sort of, set up against each other. In order to win the fight, you need to draw your opponent out of their secure defensive position. Therefore, we both roll draw them out.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Right, I do indeed draw it. And in order to have, you can choose whatever you choose based on the roll. But in order to sort of like push the fight forward, you have to choose I do indeed draw you out of your defensive posture by doing X. What's the effect?
Okay. So should we do we just roll simultaneously or?
Yeah, we'll roll simultaneously, and we'll each. I mean, I think as the player, you'll get sort of like the first play, unless you, or I'll let you decide what you want based on the rolls. We can sort of see.
Okay, I get a 9.
He rolls with +1. And that was a 6. So on a 9, you get to ask 1. And on a miss, I'm going to ask you what goes wrong. So you really have your way here. You get to, again, there isn't necessarily any reason to unless you want to have the violent conflict resolved with violence to pick that last one, but you can and tell me what goes wrong for me for Green Nail.
I think, and this is actually kind of, I guess, I don't want to keep rolling, but I do kind of, because what I was setting up was that I think that it indeed, like, they take a swipe at me and I grab them up in one of my hands and force them to meet my eyes. And
right, so this is, you do indeed draw me out by doing X, and this is the effect.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm okay I'm okay with you drawing that eye meeting roll.
Yeah, because I do think that I say something along the lines of, "It's time for you to sleep now, little goblin, and we shall see if you can find your way back to waking."
All right, you're going to try and take my breath away.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All of these choices, there's a. I love it. Go for it.
Yeah.
It's like there's a like a relationship piece to this, right? There's an emotional connection piece to this move.
Yeah.
Which
so
is
yeah.
fine. I just don't know if that's what you want.
Oh no, I'm not trying to take their breath away. I'm trying to drag them under.
Oh, that's way better. Yeah, do that.
Yeah.
You can do it literally. There's water here, but
Yeah, but no, there's one of them is they fall into a deep sleep, troubled by
Sure.
nightmares, unable to force themselves awake again, is the one I'm aiming to. Because I'd assume that Raxus maybe does not want me to drown their friend.
Oh, this isn't their friend.
Their acquaintance.
This is the first time they've met. Sorry,
okay.
There's these two characters. There's. I'll write them down. Lee Thimblechin from The Wedding.
Okay. Sorry, I thought this was the same. All right.
No.
Still,
my bad for not being clear.
bad. It seems bad form to drown someone on first meeting. I mean, that's really a second. That's really a second meeting thing to do.
Totally fair.
It's also just not a good way to set the audience at ease.
For sure. All right. So go ahead and roll it.
Oh, and that's a 6.
Oh my.
Oh, but that's okay. On a miss, they realize the danger they're in, and they're able to get away if they flee right now.
Yeah, and I think Philip like shrinks, right, and sort of slips out of your hand in that way. Size is a game fairies play among them, and as sort of slips out of your grasp and grabs his trowel and gloves from where he dropped them in the garden and darts off into the cave and says to you, well, and you hear Lee Thimblechin say, well, not many that can scare off old Green Nail. And I think that might be a good moment to take our first break. So we'll take 10 and come back at 1:15. People cool with that?
Good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what the issue is, but I'm not really getting any sound. It doesn't look like you're muted though, Jesse.
How about now?
Now that's coming in loud and clear.
Yeah, it's that physical button on my thing. I just accidentally hit it all the time.
Oh, it's no problem.
All right. Anyways, so I think the as Philip runs off down the tunnel under this truly gigantic oak tree that sprouted right on the top of this mound in the center of the island. Lee turns to you, Ingrid, and says, "I have not. It takes a lot to scare the gardener."
Raxus has been practicing. That's all I'll say. I'm
Rex,
impressed that he was able to make himself so scarce on an island so small.
oh, there's a lot down these tunnels. It's a whole. I mean, this is the king's banquet, and these are the king's halls, so to speak. I can show you the banquet hall if you want.
We would be delighted.
Yeah. Sure. So he leads you down into the rest of you follow. Yeah, I think you could. Yeah. So he leads you down, and the entrance is kind of narrow, like it's this mound, right? You probably can't get your like trailers in. Or whatever, but like as you go down, the tunnel kind of widens, and there are at first it's just kind of like flickering torches, but as you sort of make your way down into the like deeper and deeper, there are at first like oil lanterns, and then some kind of like glowing foxfire kind of phosphorus lanterns, lit by Fey magic, and it goes from being this like rough dirt tunnel to being a kind of medieval castle stone, to a kind of still in that sort of medieval style, but much more opulent, rich carpet on the floor as you get down. And that up until that point there have been no turnoffs, right? You're just kind of going straight. It's windy, but there are no branching options. But as you get deeper, there start to be turnoffs, and it's almost maze-like. But Lee is able to sort of guide you without any trouble into a truly enormous banquet hall, like 2 stories tall, a long table down the center, wall hangings, and dominating the far end of the hall is a mounted gigantic. No, it's not a single gigantic. A number of mounted, and let me know if this is too much, but they're mounted, sort of stuffed human heads with antlers.
I think while we've been following down this path, I think I have a pocket of my kind of ratty jean jacket was filled with sunflower seeds in case I needed a snack. And I think I've been like trying to be subtle about it, but I've been dropping seeds as we go in case we need to follow that back.
Sure. And I think if Lee notices, he's polite enough not to mention it. They're polite enough not to mention it. And it doesn't seem like they're trying to get you lost. It's just a confusing place. Right? They seem to be acting in good faith, and it is. I think they're chatting chatting kind of in a friendly way with all three of you. As you know, and I think maybe even giving you some direction, right? Like, oh, off down there are guest quarters, and out that way are the king's own private chambers. Giving you like, a rough kind of map in your heads that you could, in a way, like, it's clear he's not trying to get you lost down here, but you could easily get lost if you aren't paying close attention. But yeah, so you emerge into this hall, and I think again, you all recognize this figure, but Rich is the only one who's actually likely to remember them. But there's another. As you emerge into this hall, there are two creatures there already. One you recognize as Faithful Cheekin, who I've described in the past as kind of a monstrous Totoro. And you can see a kind of picture there in the character keeper if you want to take a look at the NPCs. I'm not sure that this particular version of them has the three eyes that I have in that picture, but they're this gigantic, very round, fuzzy creature with big pointy ears, long, a mouthful of more needle-sharp teeth than can reasonably fit in a mouth that size, and it is a fucking enormous mouth.
It's almost like a Cheshire grin, but just
and it just like keeps going, and sharp claws. Except for I think they're no longer Faithful Cheekin. I think they're now Faithless Cheekin.
Do we know how they lost their faith?
So they were I don't want to spend too much time talking about that, but they were sort of cursed by another member of the circus to wander the earth looking for fights to get into. And I guess they've made their way here. They are, as it says, a violent wanderer. And the second figure is they seem to be a dead human body. Not quite a zombie. They're not you might think of them as an unwrapped mummy. I'd say they're embalmed, they're very well preserved. They're not rotting. There's the smell of death and sort of like embalmers
formaldehyde.
Yeah, I mean it's not a chemical spell, because I mean it is a chemical spell, but it's an older kind of embalming technique, I would say. Aldehyde smell, but and they're wearing what appears to be a sailor's uniform. And the two of them are sort of sitting on the corner of one of the tables, Cheekin with their feet up. Let me put these names in the chat. And then the other one is Cheekin, and there's, you hear a dry rattling kind of laugh from the castaway's corpse as you walk in, not directed at you, right? As like just part of their ongoing conversation, and it like echoes in this hall. And Cheekin smiles this enormous, wide, sharp smile, And Lee says, "Oh, some of the other guests are here." Lee says, "Look, the circus is in town." And they both turn to look at you. And I think Chiken's smile disappears, and the look of kind of disgruntlement, anger, something crosses their faces. They recognize who you are, and they start to rise. How would you folks like to, Raktus, I guess, how would you like to play that?
Remind me a little, where was Faithless Chicken?
Faithless Chicken was from the treaty. They were the one that was trying to push those two sides back to war.
Okay.
And Maya sang their future. And it was that they would never find peace. And they were pleased with that future. And they went off to find war.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. But I think they a little bit blame you that they couldn't just find it where they were, right? That's the anger there.
Lovely to see you again. Look at all these people gathered. What a great audience.
And Chicken growls like inarticulately, and says do not bring your parlor tricks and sedatives and strange becoming entertainments here.
We already have.
This is a place for blood.
Well, we're not in the practice of offering sedatives. I think you'll find that the delights we offer are violent ones. Maybe not violent in the scrape of a claw or thud of a fist, but violent in the way of words meeting ears that were not ready for them.
The last time I saw your show, all you did was soothe the savage beasts. Not me, of course, but those less savage. And you hear again this dry chuckle from the corpse, rattling sort of sound in his chest.
Well, I can assure you, any beasts we seem to have soothed rose up all the more savage afterward, refreshed by the entertainment. You have to take the long view of things, my friend.
Are you are you making a play there? Are you like, I guess, putting them off?
Sure. I mean, I'm sticking up for the company.
Right. I mean, they know what happened, right? I mean, I don't think anyone, the sort of like that sequence of events was like, there was a war and the company came and then there wasn't anymore, basically. So like that accusation is true, even if Chicken is not the most fair audience member there. But yeah, I mean, they're getting up. I think they like Green Nails is spoiling for a fight.
And I'm not exactly spoiling for a fight so much as I'm trying to show them the respect. Trying to show them respect by talking back, basically.
hmm Yeah, I mean, that if you want that to be, that can be putting them off, right? And
Sure, I can try that.
yeah. Um, um, like if not, they're gonna sort of keep pushing. Oh dear, and that is a 5.
Mm,
Ooh, that is a 5. On a miss, ask the MC what goes wrong. Perhaps you've insulted them, and I don't think they're not like insulted in the like they're not. I mean, I think they are insulted. That's exactly what's like they inflate themselves up.
mhm,
And this is an enormous space, not in the way that Philip just became a different size, but this is really like
mhm,
as if they're being like a balloon filled with air almost, right?
mm,
And their mouth grows to this um enormous kind of toothy growl, and they say, no, you cannot deny what your show took from me. And they actually are going to reach out and grab Raxus
mm,
in this gigantic mitt, and just try to take a bite out of him.
mm,
And you are 100%. Well, I mean, you get to choose. This is what happens with violence. Violence in Fairyland is visceral, irrevocable, and horrifying. When you're wounded, shocked, affronted, or dismayed, you must immediately choose one. You are certainly wounded. You have a move. You can try to shrug it off. This is part of why I targeted you. You haven't had the chance to roll this move yet, and it's cool. But you don't have to. You can also just take your choice from that list on the top right-hand corner of violence things.
Yeah, no. I think I would definitely want to hit the move of when you're wounded, shocked, affronted, or dismayed, and you shrug it off. Roll. Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah. So
I'm definitely gonna play it up though.
Yeah, play it up. So tell me what it looks like.
Let me roll first. See if it's legit or if it's terrible. Okay, got a 9. And with a 7 to 9, let's see, you're unhurt. Is there anything you consider attacking me? I may consider it. I'm okay. On a 10 plus hit, you don't even consider their attack to be an insult. On a 7 to 9 hit, you may consider it an insult.
Right. Basically, you have this list of things you can choose from when violence is done to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right in the top right-hand corner, and this lets you not have to choose one of those things, and up to even including not being injured. On a 7 to 9, you can decide to be injured if you want. Not injured. It's insulted.
Oh, I think I'll writhe, moan, and curse in a display of melodramatic agony.
Okay, so because you rolled the move, you don't make one of those choices. You shrugged it off.
I see. So
right, it's a little confusing.
It's I may consider it to be an insult, which has nothing to do with those reactions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I see. Okay. This is so weird. Okay. Then it doesn't actually hurt. So I'll scamper back. What? Whoa. Thanks for basically nothing earlier there, but listen, you need to stop attacking me because that's not fruitful. So just back off.
Yeah, I think and like, did they even get like their teeth on you, and were you able to just like ignore it?
Kind of worm my way out of his clutches, and his teeth chomp down, and maybe it there's a brief pause, and then when he opens his mouth, my little spring peeper pops out and hops out of his mouth.
I love it. Yeah, and the frog's like just like hopping along back towards you there, and you hear a raspy voice come again. That dry chuckle. I like you've noticed that. You may have noticed I like NPCs with weird laughs. I play a lot of Dark Souls. There's the corpse laughs his dry laugh and says, the Hobbs got you there, Cheekin. No two ways about it. And Cheekin shrinks back down to their sort of normal size, and ignoring Raxus is again like staring daggers at Ingrid. Right? I will not. I have not forgotten your insult.
Well, I hope you realize it was offered in a friendly spirit. As a side note, I'm wondering who among the NPCs will be the patches of the campaign. Or if there are like several patches.
I think everyone's patches here. We'll
Yeah.
see. But yeah, and I think at that Cheekin stalks off. I need to find someone to punch. And Lee sort of like skitters away as to be as far from Cheekin as possible. I think the corpse looks at Midnight Sibling and says, "Well, that was exciting. Are you as hungry as I am?"
Oh, I'm always famished, and I peer at him more closely. You're not one of mine, are you?
One of yours?
Oh, one of the people I've drowned. I'm just checking.
Not that I recall. Not
Too bad. I was hoping we had met before. I'm Midnight Sibling, and you are?
I confess, my memory starts after I died. People around here.
Your kind always do seem to behave oddly in that way.
I'm the castaway's corpse, is what they call me here, or just the corpse. I'm not the castaway, obviously. Just kind of what's left of them.
Well, of course.
Like a parent you never knew.
I suppose
never-
what does happen to the castaway once he's lost his corpse, Ingrid?
I don't know. I
Is
don't
the
think
castaway around, perhaps, Mr. Corpse?
I've never met him.
he's gone his own way, huh? I think I'm also going to lean over toward Midnight Sibling and murmur, MS, I know that food in Fey realms can come with its own requirements or commitments, which the person eating may not have.
I roll my eyes. Just eat the food,
So-
and if it's not poison, you'll be fine.
I mean, do you think like similar? Do you think similar liabilities are at work in a place betwixt such as this? Should I stick to my sunflower seeds until we finish the performance?
You're only eating sunflower. No wonder you are so scrawny. I am going to cook you something immediately upon our return to camp, dear.
I think
Sunflower seeds.
as you say that,
I just shake my head.
as you say that, not from the entranceway, you're not quite sure where or how. A figure of shadow emerges from the shadows under that display of heads, it's hard to look at. Its borders aren't well defined, but it's inky and black, like a shadow made of oil slick. It's hard. It like pulls in all the light around it, and this is a space that's well lit with these sort of fey phosphorus lights, and it's the outline of a stag, of a gigantic stag, and coming. It doesn't have any eyes or a mouth or a nose. It's just the shape, in dark shadow. And this is this is the King Shadow. And it says in a voice that echoes in your skulls but not in your ears. Everybody eats well in my halls. You will not need to wait. Whatever you hunger for, I hope we can provide. And Lee and the corpse bowed deeply. How do you want to play it?
I think for my part, I curtsy, but I position myself so that I can be sure that by the light cast by one of the torches, my shadow is also visibly curtsying toward the King's shadow.
Nice. Come! I hear you are performers. You've come to dine with us tonight?
Well, apparently we have. It was not exactly a planned occasion, but I am never one to turn down a good meal.
Yes, I'm sure you are not. And no one comes here who isn't hungry for something. Come, Hobgoblin, what do you hunger for?
Could use some new truffles. Some really good tasting truffles might be good.
Yes, I'm sure that is the thing for which you most hunger. Come, you're not one of your hogs up there on the beach.
Yeah, well, if we'd been using the hogs and they were fed properly, we wouldn't be on this beach, but okay.
Little Witch, how about you? What hunger has brought you so far from home?
I hunger for nothing but the sound of well-earned applause.
And that head, that large, and I think, surprisingly soft-looking head, like turns to the side a little bit with like a and like almost quizzically, but not, skeptically, and says, "And you, sibling of my sibling."
I think my gaze flicks slightly to Ingrid, and then I cough a bit and say, I have no particular hungers to speak of.
And you hear again that the corpse's dry rattly rasp. Oh, everybody's hungry for something. I think actually at this moment, the King's going to do something I haven't really done yet as a GM in this game, but I want to do it. The Shadow turns turns to you, Raxus, and says, "You seem so. You put up this wall, but there's something you want behind it." And the King's Shadow is going to roll to draw you out. King's Shadow is going to roll to draw you out. And I think because they are the King's Shadow, they roll with +2. And that is a 12. So I think it's like what they're doing, Raxus, is they're coming close to you, and it's strange because it's a very I'm terrible with relative sizes. It's very big. It's bigger than your average stag. This dark shadow, it doesn't have a physicality to it. You know, like when a body gets close to you, you can see you have a reaction to it, and your body isn't doing that. But at the same time, you know that if you reached out to touch it, like your hand wouldn't pass through the shadow. It would. There's something solid there, but it doesn't read to you as like a body encroaching on your space. And I think it almost like it leans down and kind of touches your face with the side of its muzzle, and you feel like a downy, felty softness, and it asks you, what are you forgetting, ignoring, or keeping from yourself? I think it just says it that way, like what are you hiding even from your own self?
Sorry, I, Rich, need to think about that.
Yeah. You can take a second on that one if you want. And if you want, I could ask my second question at the same time, and that might help you like pull the two of them together. Would that be helpful or not?
It won't hurt.
Okay. Yeah, I think the second question is just what do you expect and how do you feel about it, like of this situation?
I think Raxus answers without hesitation because the King's Shadow is pulling the truth from him rather than him filtering it. I feel I've forgotten the joy of this circus, and it's just a job. What do I expect here? A bunch of nasty, hateful individuals that hopefully will entertain until we can escape.
Well, maybe you'll put on a show for us first, and dine with us, perhaps. And there's a I think it's trying to release some of the tension from the room in that moment, right? Like it got what it wanted from you, and I mean, I'm curious to hear how Midnight Sibling and Ingrid are like respond to that moment.
I think I'm worried about. I'm worried about Raxus giving further offense when he's already, for all I know, nearly been devoured. But I'm not really sure how to relieve the tension of the situation. So I think I just make eye contact with Midnight Sibling.
Yeah, and I think I've started to loom protectively over you without thinking about it. But you're going to continue, I think.
Yeah, I think you at that kind of moment, you hear like a voice calling from the entryway, and it's like a human voice, like clear and strong and joyful, if a little parched, and you hear, "Your Majesty, is the feast upon us?" You turn to the door. If you turn to look, you see a kind of a slight middle-aged human woman, in a pair of jeans, sneakers, and like a kind of a plaid button-down shirt. African American woman, kind of graying hair, and she says, "I'm starving. I heard there was a banquet." And the king, I think the king at that moment breaks the tension with like a very warm and rich laugh, the King's Shadow, and it says, "Yes, I suppose it is just about time for that. Just about time for the servants to come and set the table." I'm gonna just stop for a second and ask, this is like a weirdish scenario, and I don't know how much people feel like they've learned about the people involved. Does this feel like a good moment to start planning the show, or do you want to? I kind of want to open it up to you also. I sort of like pushed all of these NPCs on you, but if you want to frame some of your own scenes or conversations, we can do that. I can push some more action forward if you want to spend more time with the NPCs, or we can start planning the show. I kind of want to see I want to take the temperature here and see where people think they're at. And that was Leanna Bartleby. I should put her name in there.
Yeah. I'm still a little bit like, I guess forming my thoughts about the folks here. So I also feel like I'm not quite at a point where, like, I still feel like I want to interact with them a little bit more before
absolutely
in this dinner. But I'm also fine if Raxus and Ingrid think that they're kind of at a point where they want to transition into the performance.
I'm not even entirely sure what I'd want to happen in the performance. So
maybe
I think Ingrid is thinking to herself that if she needs to make an excuse to get out of the conversation, she could just say that we need to start setting up the stage and planning our entrances. But as I don't know, I'm
Yeah, I mean, I'm asking you
really
as a
fine
player.
with like
more than-
having more NPC interactions.
right, right. So
There
we
isn't
could,
really like a way that I
I mean, we
want this to go.
yeah, I mean, we could set up the first course and have people talk over food. That's always, I think, in games as in real life, a way to sort of like get some interaction. I think at Liana's then request, right? And the King Shadows laugh. There's like the shadow sort of does this little dance on the carpet, and it sounds as if there are hooves on stone calling out. And suddenly the table is set in full, as if with well, I mean, I think let's paint the scene a little bit. I'm gonna ask each of you in turn what food on the table tells you, like, or what of the table setting tells you that this banquet is not sort of fully. It wasn't prepared in a kitchen by a staff of cooks, right? That there's something supernatural about its preparation.
Well,
Go ahead, Ingrid, if you had a first thought.
the first thing I notice is that there isn't actually like a traditional liquid in the goblet before me. There's a cloud and it looks like it's about to start raining, but it hasn't yet. I can feel the tension in the air around it, though.
Sure. Midnight Sibling, how about you? What do you see that sort of lets you know the supernatural nature of the meal?
I think that, like, as the plates roll out, they're not carried by servants or fae, but living shadows of but a troop of living shadows that flows along the walls.
Sure. And Raxus, how about you? What do you see that tells you this is not this is a supernaturally prepared and served meal?
Once the food is brought out, there's no need for servants because the drinks refill and occasionally the food will crawl and knit itself back together.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's great. That's creepy. Yeah. So I mean, you're gathered there around the table. Like, are there particular people? You and I'll start with you, Midnight's Sibling. Are there particular people you'd like to talk to, or do you want me to sort of? I can also just like push something if.
I am kind of looking pointedly at like the human guest, and I think, yeah, Liana.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying it's interesting. It's not often that one comes across human guests at the table of at the dining tables of the Fey Lords.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and and they've got like a big turkey leg. She has a big turkey leg, and she keeps on doing this thing where like she bites into it and she sets it down and she waits for it to reknit itself. And she takes another bite and she sets it down and she waits for it to reknit itself. And she's like, that never gets old. It's just so cool. I've never eaten better than I eat here. Is the God's honest truth. What was your name again?
Oh, sorry.
Midnight Sibling.
Midnight is that what your mama calls you?
What my mother calls me would burn your tongue out if you tried to say it.
Oh, I had that soup once. Now I know to let it cool. That's that soup over there. It's always hot in the tureen. You gotta put it in your bowl and wait a minute. Anyways, Midnight Sibling. Lovely to meet you. I was hungry, and turns out this is a place where you can just eat and eat and eat.
Have you been eating here long?
And she starts to count on her fingers, and she's like, a while, I guess. I don't know how many banquets I've been to. Your Majesty, how many of your banquets have I feasted at? All of them, my dear. Every single one. It'd be a moment to either sniff the wind, size someone up, or if you want to get something from her to draw her out.
Yeah, I think that might have been. I think I might be sniffing the wind. Let me double check these obvious plays here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'm more trying to sniff the wind rather than like specifically. It's more that I'm engaged. I'm intrigued by her presence than her like as a person in this scene.
Sure. So feel free to roll that. And I will color what you do based on the results of the roll.
Okay. And let's see, to double check, my stat for that is a 1. Okay. Okay, and that is a 4.
So you can use one of your trappings if you want to bump it up. That's a thing you can do, or if you want to see what happens with the mist.
I think I'm probably fine. I don't think I have any trappings that are particularly relevant here to figuring things out. So yeah.
So why don't you ask a question anyway?
Sure. Let's see here. Obvious plays. Yeah, what's here that I haven't seen yet?
I think what's here that you haven't seen yet has crept up behind your back and put a clawed hand on your throat. Ingrid, you also, I think, feel a kind of a heavy arm on your shoulder, as Philip Greennail and Cheekin have returned, and have not forgotten the wrong that was done them, and I think Midnight Sibling in particular, you also have started to forget yourself a little bit.
Okay.
Normally this would be a swap from summer to winter or vice versa, but you're gonna erase one of your marks and subtract 1 from one of your plays.
Yeah, I think I think that my eyes go pale and irisless.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it were a human, you might say that they look like they were covered in cataracts, but it's just kind of this perfect whiteness rather than like kind of a more human appearance. And I am subtracting 1 from my when I drag someone under.
Yeah, and you hear, um, uh, Green Nails say, um, uh, now I'm not hungry. I'm happy with how things are, but well, Chicken is starving, and seems like maybe one or more of you could help. And the two of them are sort of not immobilized necessarily for the moment, but they're caught off guard. And Raxus, you see this. How do you want to play it?
So I've noticed something's odd about Midnight Sibling.
So sorry. So you've seen you have seen Cheekin and the gardener Philip Green Nails sort of like come up behind Midnight Sibling and Egret. And you know they've got, each has claws on one of the on like the Green Nails has their claw at Midnight Sibling's neck, and Cheekin has that heavy paw on Ingrid's shoulder.
And
so,
Sibling would usually enjoy this sort of situation, but they know that Ingrid is perhaps not as resilient to dying as I am.
yeah, and also I think just the
I don't make a
circumstance
habit
had you
of
off
this.
guard, right? You've forgotten some of yourself in this moment as well, right? That's the part.
I
Yeah.
think I want to size someone up first just to see. Try to figure out, is this some kind of play?
Sure. Who are you sizing up? You have those two.
Which one is threatening Ingrid?
Cheekin. Faithless Cheekin.
I may know the answers to these, but I'm still going to try.
Yeah, I think I'll say Green Nail is the more mysterious of the two, right? Cheekin is a pretty transparent figure.
Pretty transparent, but I mean, this is like right in front of the King's Shadow, right?
Yeah, right in front of the King's Shadow. Everyone is here, and their eyes are all on this situation. The King's Shadow you can't really read.
Wow. That is Snake Eyes.
Oh, Snake Eyes.
Oh.
You can use one of your trappings if you want. And you know, depending upon what you do, you don't have to just bump it up. You could also re-roll. Right, the trappings let you do a bunch of stuff. You know, sort of like what you're trying, if you have one that makes sense in the fiction.
Yeah, I do want to use this trapping. I'm just looking at them to try to find which one works best. Give me a sec. I've got a bunch of weird old things.
Yeah.
Well, I think while this is happening, Cheekin has his paw on one of my shoulders.
Right, and like the paw is like as big as your whole upper arm, you know.
Right.
Like,
it's covered up by my kind of torn up denim jacket, but if my jacket were off, you could see that on my other shoulder, in the stick and poke tattoo of the Fool from the Rider Waite deck, you could see that the Fool is inching closer to the cliff that they're about to walk over.
That's very nice. Raxus, have you?
Yeah, I think that there is his rawhide war coat stained with old adventures,
Mm-hmm.
shedding wiry hairs is what I'll use to. And so I can either do a reroll or.
I mean, you get
You
a
said
lot
I
of choice,
could-
right? But your trappings, if you like, I mean, I'd like to sort of understand how you're using the trapping to do it. But there's this whole list of stuff. Turn a miss into a 7 to 9, or a 7 to 9 into a 10+, or it can give you an extra choice, an extra chance, a reroll, a take back, a do over, or dibs. Right.
Okay.
Basically, the idea is just that like it gives you the fictional positioning to like change the fiction in a way that also affects your roll.
Yeah, and then with a mixed success, I do get to
You get to ask a question.
ask a question. Yeah, I think what it does is Raxus just kind of rubs along that war coat, and it reminds him of battles of old, whether he experienced them or told the story
Mhm.
about them. And I think
Sure.
it gives them a bit of insight.
Sure. Go ahead and ask your question.
How far are you willing to go here?
Uh, however far it takes to get into a real fight. Right? They're not interested in like, right? They want to fight. They don't want to. They don't want to like just hurt somebody. And so they'll push as hard as they can to get that.
Could-
But if that,
this, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
If they're pushing for a fight, could this become one of the acts of valor or grotesquerie that would be part of our performance?
If
Or would Chica like object to any kind of like theatrical frame being placed upon it?
I mean, I'm open to that. I wonder, like, if you want to then like take this moment and start to turn it into the performance as sort of like a, I certainly think that's cool. Chicken won't love it, but Chicken doesn't have to love it. They can be an unwilling participant. You're certainly an unwilling participant in whatever kind of play Chicken is performing. We're all
Although-
putting on a show here.
Yeah, I was going to say if we do that, I'd probably like to take the second break before then.
Yeah. I actually think, what time is it now? I think it's a good idea either way to take the second break. It's 1:15 now, so we'll come back at 20 past and maybe talk about how we want to swing this into the performance and run it that way. If everyone's cool with it, but I really like that idea, so I think that was cool. All right, so let's take 5 now. I'm not muted this time, am I?
No, you're fine.
Excellent. Either from every break, I'm either accidentally muted on this thing or I have the boom up. It's just
Yeah.
silly.
Easily
Every-
amended.
Every goddamn time. We'll give Rich another second. But the way I think we should do this, if it works for everybody, is in the fiction, this is going to be spontaneous to an extent, right? Like you're going to sort of, or maybe not, but it's going to feel spontaneous to the audience in any event, right? But we're going to plan the show like we plan the show. And I think this is so we can go over to the performance, the banquet tab. I suspect both because of the time and also just the way we have the scenario set up, there probably won't be any NPC performances unless you have a particular one you want to throw in that you think is valuable. But like it, to sort of have the show emerge organically out of this conflict in the meal is a cool idea. So thank you for that. Excuse me. But we should still plan it the way we would plan a show, even if it's a little bit more immersive than the way we've done this traditionally. So it sounds like Ingrid, you are the first act. It sounds like, and I'm curious. So what's your show here? What's the not the play necessarily, although you'll probably make a play at some point. But what's the act? How are you gonna swing this, right? Well, how do you turn from being sort of threatened to performing? If you want, if other people have thoughts about what they'd like their act to be and whether you want to come immediately after Ingrid or last, feel free while
I'm thinking about this.
while Z is thinking to pop in with an idea. I know of go ahead, Raxus. You have a thought?
No, I was just unmuting in case I do.
I think I'm going to call out to the rest of the banquet goers. Ladies and shadows, sprites and travelers, we have already a tableau at this very table. Our friend is here to bring foul weather to this fair isle. And to do this, he doesn't need to swipe a claw or close a jaw. You need only look at the strength in the lines of his form. Old friends and new friends, won't you show him what he means to you? And I look out at the other banqueters. My shoulder just completely dwarfed by Faithless Chiken's
Mhm.
paw.
Right. So you're gonna start out like as the MC. Do you have an act there also? And if not, like who are you introducing? We can also just do it that way. I'm curious. I know Midnight Sibling. Your last performance was a duel.
I mean, yeah, and this may end up being. We may have found ourselves in that position again. Oh, I think to really kind of just I think that probably what my performance is this time around is that rather than duel him purposefully, because I don't duel louts that insist on threatening other people I travel with. That's just simply bad form. I think I probably am instead doing an exhibition of my throwing skills by engaging in a food fight with this fellow as they chase me about the dining table.
Oh, okay. So here's my question. So I like that a lot. And and maybe sometimes you're throwing a knife for a fork instead of an object of food. But it's more of a comedy act.
Yep.
Is what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
And are you going to go? I want to come back to Ingrid in a second, and also Raxus. Are you going to go? Do you want to be the finale here, or are you the second in line?
I'm fine being second in line if somebody wants to take the finale, but if nobody has a thought for how to, I'm probably fine being second in line. It creates an opening for somebody to actually do their own performance independent of this interference.
Sure, Raxus. I'm curious. So how do you want to close out this show? I have some ideas of things you could do if you're blanking, but
Well, okay, two questions.
Mm-hmm.
First one, when you turn the circus course toward the other world, does that mean we could effectively turn the circus and get out of
Yes.
this place? Okay.
Yes. This is sort of like we've been playing this generally pretty whatever you guys want to do, whatever you folks want to do, you can do.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of world, but I think if you want to move to the other world, typically you need to make a play to do it. Right. And this is, I think you really don't want to get stuck here. Right. This sort of makes sure that you don't end up stuck in between worlds in another weird in between world place for your next show. But that you can get out to where you want to be. You don't leave immediately. It's right when you leave this place. So the show continues to go on. Although I'm certainly open to the idea that your finale is zap, we're gone. Right. That can be
Yeah, is it does Raxus come out in as a magician and brings up a curtain around all the entertainers or something?
Yeah, I'm down for that. That sounds fun and right within a bit of his tricks he's done before.
Right, and I mean you have a play that kind of does that, right?
Right.
In terms of vision, tricks and visions.
Mm-hmm.
So we can play it out like that. Yeah. So we'll call it the Great Disappearing. And yeah. And I want to come back to you though, Ingrid. So you give your
Mm-hmm.
I want to put some weight on what you've done. So you give your patter, you introduce the show,
Mm-hmm.
but you're still, what's your flourish? How do you transition from you and Midnight Sibling being being caught like this in the by these two sort of violent figures, and get them to sort of chase Midnight Sibling for this act. What's your play there, and both theatrically and also mechanically?
Hmm. Um, I think mechanically, I want to try to weather the storm.
For sure.
I'm trying to think of what the move would be in the fiction.
Well, I mean, maybe it's just right what you've said, and I'm willing to make the MC move that will like sort of push it harder, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is that in response to your wonderful patter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, you feel like both you and Midnight Sibling starts to feel those claws, poke in at his neck. And you start to feel the weight of Cheekin bear down on you, and Cheekin says something like, "Enough with your fancy talk. You will fight back." This is maybe also like weathering the storm instead of fighting back is also like a nice way to sort of like, you're not giving them what they want either, which
Mm-hmm.
is. And yeah, go ahead and roll Weather the Storm.
Sure. So that's 2d6 plus 1.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 12.
Amazing. So on a 12, first of all, on any hit, you choose one of these two things. The storm range. So which one of those two do you choose? The storm rages around me, but doesn't move me from my place, or I ride the storm where it carries me, but don't lose my feet.
I'm going to say I ride the storm where it carries me, but don't lose my feet.
Yeah, and you feel.
And I think I say to Cheekin, well, I turn to Cheekin, but then I look back to the crowd around me at the table. Fight back, but you're our star attraction. I wouldn't think of stealing your spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
These fine figures around you have seen you glower and scowl and bring your weight down upon us. Don't you think they'd like to see you in motion?
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And which of you get to choose 2 or 3 of this list of other things. I think it sounds like I know which ones you've chosen to sort of like get that result. But why do you want to tell me? Calm enough, fearless enough, patient enough, quick enough, strong enough, endure, provide care and healing, common direction, or strength and protection, or just anything. I am or I can.
Let's see. I think in this case, I'm quick enough and I can provide common direction to those around me.
For sure. That sounds right to me. Right. And I think that's sort of like your signal, right? Midnight Sibling, as and I'm going to sort of in the penumbra of Ingrid's calm and speed, right? That Z's able sort of like deflate and diffuse as Chiken's bearing down on her. Green Nails is sort of caught up in all of this in the show. You're able to slip out and tell me. So how does your act begin? What do you do to pull Chiken or Green Nail or both? Midnight Sibling?
Oh, sorry. What was the question?
Just so you like, Ingrid has successfully set you up, right? And what do you do to sort of like start your act and pull them out to begin this little farce?
Oh, I grabbed that big roast that Liana was biting into and like whip it out of her hands and toss it at them. And I think that there's this like where they're like slicing apart things I toss at them as like they chase me across the table.
That's what I understand. And there's like a roar, and like they're like, I think there's a lot of it also like you're tossing food at them and they're like catching it in this enormous mouth, right? And you can see like those razor sharp teeth slicing through everything. Right, as they sort of dance around, and you hear the king especially kind of like laughing at this. Like is there a play here? Like they're eventually gonna get frustrated and either catch you or grab someone else, right? Like to try and provoke you to directly confront them in a fight. But you have control of the situation now. What's your play here?
Oh,
And it doesn't have to be directed at, I mean, it can be directed at Chiken, right? But also, you're putting on a show, it can be directed at the audience. You can jump straight to a show play if you want, I guess, although that will leave things open first, I think, for Chiken to...
Yeah. I guess, let me see here. I'm just seeing what these... I'm just trying to remind myself of what the obvious plays do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I am trying to waylay them.
Sure. So how do you like what do you do there to sort of like they're chasing you when you're throwing shit at them, right? Like how do you finagle that into a waylay?
Like I think as they're like catching things in their mouth, I like start sneaking in bits of cutlery and plates into the the show. Sure.
So roll those dice and let's see what happens. We've had some great rolls here. There's a lot of high rolls. We got some low ones too, though. Oh yeah, those 3s and 4s. And that is a 7. So you get to do so. They drop everything and deal with your attack, and now they're taking you seriously in a way they weren't before, right? But what do you choose one? What do you do? Drive them scrambling back, strike them violently. You're muted. Steven, you're muted.
I think I throw them off balance and they stumble and fall. Mm-hmm. And because we talked about the fact that all this food reassembles itself, mm-hmm. like I think they start coughing up like this food that's been like cut apart by their razor sharp teeth. And mm-hmm. it all falls perfectly reassembled back onto the table, and it produces this wild laugh from the audience.
Absolutely, there's like applause. Do you take like Chiken is kind of like fallen down and is embarrassed, right? You've deflated them for sure. And what's your kind of like how do you what's your flourish? How do you indicate that like you were in control the whole time and it was all part of the show?
I think like as I bow down, as I reach out an arm as one would like catching a flower from the audience, but I instead catch that leg of mutton that I started at the start, and then take a bow with the muttons in hand.
Amazing. Yeah, you get a ton of applause there. And I'd love to hear. Are you making? Was there a show play in there?
Yeah, I think that it is. I think that the show play I'm taking is that I am trying to change someone's fortunes,
Mhm.
and I forget which one is Faithless. Faithless
That's
Chicken is his.
That's the one that
Yes.
you were just
Okay,
mocking.
I just wanted to make certain that that was the right
Yeah.
one. I think that what is happens now is that like I am changing their fortune so that from now on, no one who from now on they are a joke. No matter who they attack or what fights they pick, people will always think that they're just a clown.
Oh my. I've looked at. When there's only 2 other people voting, the MC can also choose to vote.
Yeah.
I think that's how we're going to do this. So the way this works, for those of you who haven't been here, and we were doing it wrong for a while. All 3 of you, and Egret, I didn't ask you before, so we'll come back to you in a second, gets to make a show play as part of your performance. You get and we all vote on whether or not we want that show play, that thing to have happened. The show plays are all on the performance tab. And what we'll do is we'll type yes or no into the chat, and you only get 2 votes, and you don't vote on your own thing. So there'll be 3, and not all of them will be able to be unanimous because you'll have to vote no to 1. Although I guess not.
No, I mean, if you want as the GM to also make a show play, and
I can do that. We'll see how this goes. There hasn't been a good opportunity. We'll see how some of these roles go. I might take one if someone fills a role here. So yeah. Anyways, everyone should put in their vote on Midnight Sibling show play, and then I'll count down from 3, 2, 1, and then we'll just hit enter. Chat. But of course, that was too awesome not to vote yes for. Oh, poor Chicken. They at least found their fight. They got what they were hungry for at the banquet. So that much is good. Egret, I want to go back to you for a second. So you did your little sort of monologue introduction piece. Was there a show play in that? We didn't talk about that.
I'm not totally sure, just because I'm still kind of like,
yeah.
There is, when you give this place its
performance
voice,
mechanics.
It feels like it might work.
Yeah, I think that would make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, if you want to think about it some more, we can do Raxus's performance and come back to you if you prefer. If you want to think a little longer, but if you like that,
well, once we do Raxus's performance, I'm hoping we get the hell out of here. So
no, that makes sense. Yeah, I think giving this place its voice would make sense.
Sure. So when you give this place its voice,
the other thing that like I would want to do ideally would be to like find some way to communicate with Liana about like whether she wants to stay at the banquet or whether she wants to follow us.
Well,
since it seems like she's been kind of forgetting herself, but I also don't know that that's something like
I mean, you can captivate
to do, or if it's something that we could like reasonably do.
I mean, you could
performance.
First of all, I think this is a moment when you could just ask her, right? As Raxus is getting set up, you could lean over and just whisper to her if you want.
Yeah.
Certainly there's space there for that. Like that doesn't have to be, and then you can, if you want to take that information, or even just make a size someone up role to observe her as she's like enjoying the show and the banquet. You can sort of like, we can have that sort of be your sort of like you've been sitting here watching her throughout this meal. Like, what do you get off of her?
Yeah, I don't know if that would be drawing her out or sizing her up, but I think I would want to just like find a moment to, kind of like murmur to her.
Sure. I
You
mean,
know,
which set of questions is more
if
appealing?
you're enjoying the banquet, you should feel free to stay.
Mhm.
But if you feel like you might have been here too long, I just want you to know you're welcome if you want to come with us.
Yeah, I don't think you have to even roll for this. Is the truth. I think she'll just tell you that, like, she's very open with this, right? Which is just that she likes to eat. And I think there's probably, I think if you want more than that, like, you'll have to roll. But like, superficially, what she'll say to you is like, this is heaven for her. Right?
Hmm.
She is always hungry, but she can also always eat, and she was always hungry before too.
Yeah.
And she gets entertainment, and she will tell you, and is not lying when she says she is comfortable here. If you like want to know what's behind that, I think you need to roll. But in terms of like, that is the truth.
I don't think I would want to like push the situation further
Mhm.
beyond just talking to her and like
Yeah.
making clear that like we could be a line of flight if she needed that. But I think I might try to size her up to see sort of what is behind her,
Sure.
even if I'm not going to like
Go ahead and
take the case further.
go ahead and roll it.
Okay. So that's 2d6 plus 2. And that is an 8.
So you get to ask them one question. What do you intend to do? How far are you prepared to go? Where are you confident? Where are you uncertain? What do you hope will happen? What do you fear? And how prepared are you for each?
I think I would ask her, where are you uncertain?
Yeah. So I mean, you get both. Where are you confident and where are you uncertain?
Okay.
Yeah, I think what you get from her, and this is, call it conversation over the course of the banquet, right? We can sort of retcon it back into that, right? Is that right? She's confident and comfortable at the table at the banquet. The rest of the time here, she's a little bit uncertain. But I think what you get from her also is that, like, she was also always uncertain in the mortal world. And at least here she has the banquet. Right, the banquet is the place where she feels most confident and comfortable.
I see.
Yeah, and I think maybe with that, do you have a show play here? Do you want to try to see if she wants to come? Do you want to bring her along, or do you want to?
I think I think like even knowing that she has like forgotten parts of herself here, I think I would still want to like kind of just sort of register what she's saying and respect that she wants to stay at the banquet.
Got it. So are you gonna try to give the place its voice?
Yeah, I think I'm going to try to give the place its voice.
Okay, so the place will speak freely in its own voice and ask the MC what it says on a majority. Unanimity means it can act for a moment on its own behalf. So let's vote. 1, 2, 3. So you don't actually get a vote on your own thing, Ingrid.
Okay, sorry.
So that is 2-1 no. Which means a split or minority. It can't speak in its own voice, but you can speak for it. Ask the MC what it whispers to you, and decide for yourself whether to speak for it. And I think this is where you hear the whispers at the end of your monologue, as Cheekin is going for going after Midnight Sibling. You hear. You don't know where the voice is coming from. I think it's actually, it's as if it's coming from, it's the chorus of those heads. But in a loud stage whisper that only you can hear. Right. And what it says is, feed us of yourselves, we hunger.
Hmm.
Feed not us, feed me of yourselves, I hunger. Feed me your hunger. And that's what the place says. You can choose to share that or not as whether you want to speak for it. But I think while you're mulling that over, Raxus, how do you set up this finale, this final disappearing act?
Vraxis gets out, does a bit of patter, some like playing with the audience, and then his plan is to have the audience actually participate in drawing a curtain around all of the performers, because the big reveal happens after that. And then
Sure. Do you ask for a curtain?
yeah, of course I asked for
I think the castaway's corpse gets up and does that funky thing that magicians do, where they like grab the edge of the tablecloth and pull it out from under the food, and the food spills everywhere. It's supposed to be that like cool slick, but the corpse is not that slick. But now you have a curtain, like it's this gigantic tablecloth, and I think the Liana and the corpse, right? The king doesn't have hands, and the other two are mad. And there are other people at this banquet that we haven't really seen who are sort of, kind of like faceless. They've forgotten a lot of themselves, but they can certainly do this, right? And so they prepare to pull the curtain around you. And what's the theater part? How do you make this exciting for everybody?
Well, the excitement is that Raxus doesn't tell them they're going to be vanished. He talks about a magical transformation, that this is the doorway that will unlock. As you've eaten whatever you want, now you shall see what you most want to see. And he's building up that big anticipation, so we can all have a nice laugh if I successfully get us the hell out of here.
Sure. So yeah, why don't you roll your play?
Do I?
Well, I think we were going to have you right as you're going to roll distract someone with tricks and visions.
Oh, sure.
I think
Does that affect the show play?
It doesn't affect the show play, but it will affect how the place reacts to the show play.
All right, fair enough.
Right? Meaning, like, you're going to go, but like, is the illusion going to hold up? And will they be like, "Whoa," or is it going to be,
"Haha,
they're escaping"?
It's a 10, so I choose 3 the following.
Right, like the curtain disappears, like gets pulled back, and you're all gone. And what do they see? What's the magic, the illusion that you've left for them to be mystified by?
Oh, it is a herd of Piggly Wigglies that appear from nowhere. A bunch of anthropomorphic pigs in aprons with chef's hats.
Yeah, and the whole crowd applauds thunderously. But of course, well, maybe they don't hear. Let's vote on that show play, which is to leave this world behind. And Raxus doesn't vote. 3, 2, 1. And yes. So yeah, on a unanimity, when you leave this place, you'll arrive in the other world. And I imagine you find yourself in a dusty parking lot with all of your stuff in Tennessee, in the parking lot of a Piggly Wiggly, with a big banner that says grand opening. And that's where you will find yourselves next show. And you'll never know what happened in the King's Banquet Hall. Anyways, anyone who watches this, I hope you enjoyed it, and we're gonna end this recording.